All right, everybody. We are here for a head-to-head between two of what I consider kind of to be the titans of the pocket multi-tool industry. So we're going to be going through, try to do an objective evaluation and a scoring mechanism to be as objective and quantifiable as we can be on what might be the best of these two tools. The Leatherman Arc, the Spirit X is what I've chosen from Victorinox. This is their flagship model from Leatherman. They've got a couple models. I don't know which one's necessarily flagship or the other. They just have different configurations. But whereas Leatherman has, tools down in the $50 range up to $250. The Victorinox, there's a little bit of price differentiation based on the size in which you need, but they're all basically the same quality. They don't have lower end, lesser steels, and then nicer ones the way that Leatherman does. So I would consider Victorinox, any of them, to be kind of a flagship. They're just a premium product as opposed to a good product that has a premium offering in their lineup. To me, there's a difference. Also, hit like and subscribe. Turn on the notification bell if you like watches and cars and motorcycle stuff, guy stuff. Watches, what are we wearing today? We got a Formula One from Tag Heuer. That's what we're wearing today. So if you like that other stuff, go check out those other videos. But let's get into it. So I broke them down into all these different categories. We're going to go through and I'm going to score them on the fly here as we do this. I've been carrying and using both of these for about a year now. In fact, I stopped carrying a lot of my OTFs and normal tactical-ish sort of blades. I'm really carrying sacks and multi-tools just because they're more versatile. My scoring mechanism is this. If we come across something here that doesn't have it, it gets a score. It's just not applicable. It doesn't get anything. It's a 0. 1 is meh. It's there. It works. It checks the box, but it's not awesome, but it's better than not having it. Number 2 is it's pretty good. Maybe there's room for improvement. Maybe it's not the best thing out there, but it's a good, solid tool, or it's a good, solid aspect. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just not maybe as good as it could be. And 3 is going to be, excellent. It's as good as what you would hope for or expect out of a tool of this caliber. So those are your scores. 0, which probably won't come up much at all, maybe once or twice. And the rest are going to be, meh, pretty nice, and sweet. That's how we're going to score this. So first thing, package and size. Weight-wise, they're about the same. They're within grams of each other. But the Victorinox is noticeably smaller. It's thinner. It has less things sticking out that can either print if you're wearing like dress slacks or khakis or something. It's less things to snag on. This is a much thinner, flatter, sitting in your pocket, more compact and dense. So the weight's there. It's got as much metal as this. The Leatherman just has more open spaces and gaps and things and pieces sticking off of it, which it's nice. It's okay for a fully functioned tool that's got as much stuff as they pack into this. I'd give this a 2. It's not horrible. It isn't awesome, but it is a bit more bulky in the pocket. This one, you'd be more inclined to go, maybe I want to put it in a belt pouch. Whereas even though this one's just as heavy, it's sleeker, smoother, doesn't print as much, and it is noticeably thinner and flatter sitting in your pocket. So of the 2, I'm going to give the nod to the Spirit X for a better, more sleek, I think more streamlined and just nicer package size, whatever you want to call it. But this one's still pretty good. It's not horrible. So going into ergonomics. I'm torn on this one because this is advertised as one-handed opening. So your blade, which works actually very well. We'll talk about that in a minute when we get to the blade. The scissors, you can kind of reverse. You can't really flick it very well, but you can open things. You can get to this one pretty well, the file. On this one, you get it, and you have to put a lot of pressure, and as soon as it starts to go, that tooth is about to rip into my fingernail. It actually grabs, and you can cut yourself pretty good there. So you almost feel like, well, in order to open that one-handed, you got to kind of do one of these measures and kind of push it out again. It's snagging my finger and then turn it over. It's just not, some of the things work well. The knife is well executed. And while the rest of it is technically one-handed opening, it's very fiddly. I don't know why you need all the tools to be one-handed opening, obviously. In a quick self-defense situation, if it ever came to that, as unlikely as it is, and you want that knife to deploy quickly, absolutely. On the other stuff, I don't know what the use case is to design it this way. It's awkward. It's very fiddly. It's very kind of weird to get to things. You got to kind of open it. It pushes everything open at once, and then you got to sit there and do this. If my hand was stuck in a machine or wrapped in a barbed wire and I needed to get to stuff in a hurry, I'd be in pain, probably have adrenaline. My motor skills aren't going to be what they should be. And even when they are, and I'm sitting here concentrating in my office on a desktop here, it's very fiddly. You got to keep switching your grip. You'd be very likely to drop the damn thing. So while it checks the boxes of, oh, it's one-handed opening, here's the only two things that actually work well one-handed opening: the blade and getting to the pliers. Now you have to pretty much pop it open, or if you're holding it this way, you got to shift your grip and try not to lose it, and then you can flick it open and get to your tools. And then when you want to close it, it'll close one side, and you got to slap it pretty hard, and it slams on your finger. You can do it one-handed. It's not a really good execution. It's one of those things that sounds great on paper, but it doesn't actually work that well. There's a lot of hot spots when you're using the pliers here. There's those corners stick into your palm, and so it really isn't that comfortable. On this side, that is raised up, that digs into your finger. If you're just cutting one or two wires, it's not a big deal. If you were sitting there doing some work with this, out mending a fence, and you had to keep crimping and bending and cutting wire and chicken wire and stuff, you'd hate it after 5 minutes. It'll work, but you're going to want to wear gloves if you're doing any kind of serious work. Whereas this one, while it is not one-handed opening really on any of the tools, it's much nicer to use. You find the tool you want, you use both hands. There are no sharp edges. Everything here. Everything, the locking and unlocking mechanism, all of the springs, the sides. Look at how just well-rounded, chamfered. Everything has smooth arcs and kind of curves to the shape of your hand. So while it is two-handed opening, like a normal sack would be, there's nothing on this particular one that has one-handed opening. It is a much nicer tool to use. It sits in your palm. Everything's smooth. Even though this is shiny and you think, oh, it's going to be slick, it gets traction. It sits in your hand really nice, even when your hands are wet, and it's very comfortable. You could use this longer, way longer than you'd be using this. You'll start hating this after a while if you're doing any kind of serious cutting or crimping or using the pliers. It's just not that comfortable without gloves. This is a much better ergonomic package, even though it isn't one-handed opening. So when it comes to actually how much of a pleasure it is to use the tool, whether it says one-hand opening or not, until we get to the blade, it doesn't make a difference. I don't really care for it. This is way better ergonomically designed for comfort, because with a tool that is comfortable, you're going to reach for it more. You can use it more times. You can use it for longer. It makes the tool more useful. Moving on to the blade. Now here's where we see a bit of a shift going the other way for a couple reasons. The one part of this tool that actually does work with one-handed opening, that works properly and really well, is the blade. And it's a more hard use blade, and it is Magna Cut. It's a nice premium steel. You got to give 3 points for this. You got to say excellent. As a multi-tool, most multi-tools are multi-tools, and then they got a crappy little knife. This is a multi-tool with a really good pocket knife. If you didn't have all the tools and you just had a folding knife with like that blade on it, you'd go, that's a really nice pocket knife. The action's good, even though you're not reverse flicking it and all that other shit. It is a really nice blade. It is actually really nice deployment. It's going to be a strong blade. It's going to hold an edge forever. It's just a good blade. You get your diamond light coating to help with your DLC type coating for corrosion resistant. But Leatherman did a really good job. That's probably the biggest selling point of this thing, is that blade. Got to give it a 3. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. This one, not one-handed opening. Now, they do have an MX version, and I'll tell you why I chose this over the MX. And overall, I don't know if it'll change the score. This one's going to get a 2. Just tell you right now. It's going to get a 2. It's a good blade. It's a very good blade. It isn't as awesome as that. Let's just be honest. It's very thick stock. In fact, it's at least as thick as that, but it isn't as good of a grade as steel. What it does have, though, is a really hair-popping, good slicey edge in a steel that, while it will dull faster than MagnaCut, it's very corrosion resistant, and you could sharpen it up very easily in the field if you had to. Okay, not as easy with that. This would make a better slicer for skinning games, dressing something in the field, gutting a fish and skinning it, any of that kind of stuff, slicing meat, vegetables, potatoes, carrots. It's got a nice, much sharper, finer edge, whereas this is more wedge-like, which might be more for taking a beating on it. But as a slicer and opening packages and stuff, this is a great blade, but it isn't one-handed opening, and it isn't MagnaCut. So it's got to get a 2. There is an MX version of this that you can get. However, the blade is shorter, noticeably shorter. And the way they did the thumb stud is it's not a stud. They stamp out the shape of the blade with a piece of metal that sticks out like here, and then they kind of fold it over. So you got a blade that's shorter here, and then when you're cutting through something, it hits that because it sticks out a lot. And you know, if you're trying to push through something, you really only have a short part of the cutting edge to cut with, between the blade being shorter and the last quarter of an inch of the blade not being really usable. And when you go to sharpen it, that thing sticks out so much it gets in the way. So for that, I didn't go with the MX. But it's a solid 2. It's a good blade. It's as good as, you know, most sack blades. Fit and finish, without a question, 3. For the reasons we mentioned over here, every little surface is deburred. There is nothing sharp. There is nothing to snag going in and out of your pocket. Everything on this is well thought out. It's polished. It's assembled. There's no wobble. Here, when you open a blade or something, it's got good walk and talk. It's got a good snappy spring that snaps that piece home. When you're using something over here, the spring's not as good. Notice it stops. You have to physically push the blades in. It'll lock into place, but it's like you can barely even hear it. It's just a little kind of a is a little thing. I don't even know if the camera will pick it up. It just kind of locks in. This wants to pop open if you're, you know, wiggling, if you're not holding it securely. The fit and finish, to me, even though I know the materials are good, the stamped pieces, the way things are sharp, like that's a good sharp edge there. You can catch on your clothing or something like that as you're pulling out of your pocket. These things sticking out when you're using them aren't as comfortable. It's good materials, but it feels cheaper. It isn't horrible. It's better than a bunch of ones I've used over the years. It's just not awesome. Fit and finish is a 2. Victorinox is known for their fit and finish. They make really, really good stuff. Moving on to pliers. What do we got? Well, as far as pliers go, they're both pretty damn beefy for a pocket tool. These look bigger, but they're really not. I mean, this is at least as thick. In fact, I would say the tip on this is a little bit thicker and stronger. This is a little more needle nose, so maybe you got like incrementally a tiny bit more reach, maybe another 3.5 millimeters. They're both really good though. I would say I can't find anything wrong with either of these other than going back to the ergonomics. I don't want to ding this one twice necessarily for the same thing, but this, following the curves of your hands, nothing sticking out, no hot spots. This is comfortable and pleasurable to use. It'll work really well and you'll put up with it, but it's not as fun. It's not as enjoyable. Your hand is going to get sore using this. But that's the ergonomics. As far as the pliers themselves go and the mechanical advantage and the leverage you get, they're both excellent pliers. I give them both a 3, honestly. I don't see anything wrong with it. I hate to ding it twice on the ergonomics, so I'm gonna do that, even though it ties in. Kind of keep in mind that the ergonomics that held it back over here do extend to the pliers. But as far as the strength and the design here, I'm going to give it top notch. They're both great. They're both great pliers. Let us move on to the saw. So on this one, we've got, Victorinox has the best saws. I've used a bunch of different tools over the years. I will say this is good. This one's a tiny bit better. The once or twice I was cutting a wet branch. Both of them are milled properly or ground properly where the teeth are wider than the back, so that it should inhibit friction of the wet wood as the blade goes through past the cutting edge to this. You don't want all that stiction. So both of them are tapered, but you can see how much taller this is. Now, on one hand, you might say, well, that makes it stronger, less likely to break over time. Yeah, maybe. But as far as actually using them, the once or twice I had to trim a couple branches out in the backyard, this one just had that little bit more bite. Victorinox is really, really known for the angles and the way that they sharpen that saw to just be top notch. This is not far behind it, but it wasn't quite as good. I'm giving the Spirit a 3, and this is a very strong 2. It's only behind it because I did notice more stiction and grip, even though it does taper off. You know, wet wood has a tendency, you cut through it and then it, you know, it kind of wants to do this around it. And having all that extra meat for it to grab on, I was having to physically put more pressure. And then when you couple it with the bad ergos and these edges and things cutting in your hands, it was not as comfortable or as fast cutting through little wet branches as this one was. This was not massively better, but it was noticeably better. So that's why this one is going to eke out a win over that. On the file, now this is interesting. So with the file, each one's better than the other in a certain area. They're both about the same size. The Victorinox I found had more bite, not just on the especially on the hacksaw blade. If you had to cut through a nail, this thing would make mincemeat of it before this. This one I can run my fingers over it and it's not that grabby. This one is way grabby and it's taking skin off. This is a much better hacksaw, and for hogging off metal, same thing. This has more bite than this one did the 1 or 2 times that I used it. However, so I would give this a 3 as a file. It works really well, and as a hacksaw, it was superior to this. However, I'm tempted to give this one a 3 as well, because while it didn't perform as well on the flat, it didn't perform quite as well on hacksaw. It has a diamond file to smooth or sharpen a knife blade or something like that to deburr something that this one doesn't really have. So I would say for the 2 out of the 3 types of filing, this is superior. And while this isn't as good, it does give you that third option of a fine edge, the diamond edge, to maybe just take the burr off without hogging off a bunch of metal, or you can use that to sharpen another knife blade. So I feel like it's going to make up some ground there. This is a 3. While not as good of a performer, it has more options and a little bit more functionality. So in its own way, I would also consider it a 3. You're making a trade-off of giving a little less performance in 2 areas, but you are picking up a 3rd area. If all you need is just a metal file and a hacksaw, that's the better one, demonstrably better. Moving on to skizzers. So here this one's interesting because I kind of wish Victorinox had done a better job on this, because Victorinox kind of has 2 different kinds of scissors. If I go to, I don't know if this is the Hercules or the Work Champ, maybe that's the Work Champ. I know what they were going for here. They felt that this type of spring bar was going to be better than these that can bend or fall out, or you got to replace them, although you can replace them. It doesn't open that far. The quality is there. This is great for cutting scissors and thin leather and vinyl and things like that, but it doesn't open that wide. So you're having to, while it's very sharp and it works well, you're having to do more cuts because you're taking smaller cuts. And when you go to cut paracord, you know, it kind of pushes it part way out and then it starts to bite and you're having to do a couple passes to get through, as opposed to this where you can do longer cuts, which means you're pushing it less and you can really get paracord up in there, and usually in one slice you can make it through. So I got to give the nod to this. I wish that they had done something more like Victorinox usually does on their other knives. For some reason on this, they use that. I don't know what their reasoning was, but it's just not as good. So we're going to ding Victorinox on the scissors, and we're going to give the win to the Leatherman Arc. Let us now go to the Reamer and some of the other tools. So as far as Reamers go, you know, I've only done a little bit of work with them. They're both fairly comparable. I don't think You could say, well, one is vastly superior to the other. This one's got a little wire stripper there, which is kind of cool. This one, though, it depends on what you're trying to ream. This one is a little bit sharper and it's pointier and it's a little bit longer. So if you're trying to bore a hole in something, I'd say this is better. If you're trying to put a hole in a leather belt or something like that to put an extra notch or something like that, you can do finer work with this. It's longer, it's a little sharper, but I mean the sharpness difference probably isn't all that, it's probably negligible. It's really just about the longer, pointier, thinner for boring a hole in something small that you could go up a little larger, as opposed to I'm going to bore a big hole. Down here on the skinny end is as fat as the big end. And so I just feel like it goes from a point to really fat. This one here on the Leatherman doesn't give you that finesse to kind of choose, hey, I just need a small hole bored in a piece of plastic or leather. It's like, just as it goes through, if you're going to make it any bigger to make it usable, you immediately you put a giant hole in it. I don't think this does as fine of work. Maybe they said, well, it's stronger that way or something. I'm not trying to bore through steel. I say this is good. The Victorinox by its longer, thinner taper, I think is better. We're going to give that one the win. Now, let's go to Phillips screwdriver. So, this one's an easy win for me. As far as multi-tools go, Victorinox has really good screwdrivers. Now, this one doesn't have it, but it's where the corkscrew would be. You know, it would have it on the back, and then you're really limited on where you can use it and how much you can, you know, if you have to get into a tight area. The inline's better, and that's actually where knives like this have some inline screwdrivers. There's a shorter, long one and stuff like that. I like this. It's a proper head. It's not super skinny. This gets a better purchase. This is more likely to strip. Also, if something's recessed, I can get to something and reach it a little bit better here than I can with this. It's tall this way. It gets really tall and bulky. It's short. It just doesn't give you the ability to reach into a small area the way that this one would. This is a much better screwdriver. Now, you may be thinking, yeah, but this one has bits. You can get different bits. You could do this. You could get extensions. You could get an adapter to use it. Yeah, and that's extra shit you have to carry. And I understand, well, some people will do that. Well, then maybe that makes a difference for you. I just found it to be, I don't like these skinny little bits. I would have rather get rid of like one of the stupid tools maybe over here that doesn't work as well and take that slot right there and make this a full bit driver. And then maybe I would be, you know, cool with that. Maybe it would be better. But as a standalone Phillips screwdriver, better end than that, and I can go ahead and reach into a smaller area in a tighter workspace. This is going to be very limiting without some kinds of extensions and attachments. Now you could say, well, if you break or snap this, and you did here, you just pop this out and get a new one. Yeah, but I'm replacing it with an inferior. As it comes out of the box, no question. I don't even want to give that a 2, honestly, because I don't like those skinny, crappy little proprietary bits, this big chunky thing that really limits where you can use it. I'm giving that a 1, and I'm going to give this one a 3. On a multi-tool, that is a very excellent inline screwdriver, very well executed. This, again, sounds like a good idea, but the execution is just not doing it for me. Let's talk about bottle openers. So, we got a bottle opener here. And Victorinox has really good bottle openers. Is this one demonstrably better than the other? Victorinox is known to have like one of the best. Their sacks just have really good can openers. They've been making them for over a century. They've got the angles, everything down. I give this a 2. I don't think I ever opened one, but I can't see any reason why this one wouldn't work. I just know how well this one does work. So I'm going to give this a 2. I think it's probably very good. This one's going to be better. I know they're the best in the business at this. And you have an option for another small screwdriver right there. Flathead. Some people use it as a 2D Phillips head, although with the regular Phillips, you probably don't need that. But it just gives you another option because we're going next. We're going to go to the can opener, which also covers flathead screwdrivers. So this gives you just another option. So I would put it just above that. We're going to give the win to them, but it's not a bad offering. I mean, I'm sure this thing is perfectly serviceable. So let's go to bottle openers as well as flathead screwdrivers. So bottle openers, I mean, they're both good. I don't know why one would be better than the other. They both have a fairly sharp edge. I mean, can I give them both a 2, give them both a 3? I don't think it matters what I give them because honestly, it's going to be a tie. I think that as a bottle opener goes, it'll open pretty much any bottle you want. So I don't know if it's awesome, but whatever. They're going to get the same score, so it doesn't really matter if it's 2 or 3, or a 1 for that matter. Let's jump ahead to the flat screwdriver. Did I not have a column in here for flat screwdriver? Let's put another column here. Flat screw grande. That means large. All right. So for a flat screwdriver, the 1 or 2 times I've used them, here's what I found. This one's longer, gives you a little bit better reach. It's a little bit broader, so on a larger screw, flathead, it would give you more purchase. Remember, the narrower it is, the more force is forced on us. All that force is concentrated in a smaller area, more likely to slip out or dig into the screw. But also, look at the edge, how this one tapers down. While the tools are about the same width. As a pry bar, this is also, shit, I don't have a column for pry bar, damn it. This is longer, you get a little more reach and a little bit more leverage. This one just doesn't give you as much room to work. Same thing with a flathead screwdriver. It's probably long enough for a flathead, but this is longer. But that edge is a little bit thinner. A lot of screws aren't going to fit that. I mean, it would be a really weird screw. It'd have to be like a really big screw. And then it comes in the point where that might fit into the slot, but because it's narrower, you're more likely to strip or chew the head up as having that same amount of pressure distributed along a wider surface. So I think this is, it's okay. It's good. We'll give it a 2. There's nothing wrong with it, but it is rather kind of chunky, maybe too thick in one direction and not wide enough in another. This though, as a screwdriver and pry bar, I guess I'll lump the score in together. Better. It's just a bigger, stronger piece, better leverage for wrenching or prying something open. And I feel like having that just be a little bit thinner this way and a little bit wider that way makes a better flathead screwdriver. You don't have a lot of screwdrivers that are super fat that way and kind of narrow that way. I feel like the proportions are off. Now, as a small screwdriver, well, this is their version of a small screwdriver. It's for eyeglasses. It really doesn't have a lot to it. And if you have a pair of sunglasses, but that's about it. Like, what else would you use that on? That is so tiny, and you could turn it around and there's a tiny Phillips. To me, really, other than a pair of glasses, I don't know of anything that would have, that I would need a bit that small. This to me is more of a small screwdriver. Maybe on a circuit board or a piece of electronics, or you need something. That to me, between, it's like you have small, medium, and then you got large. Here you've got kind of this awkward large/medium that probably won't fit as many screws, and then you go to tiny and almost unusable. I just feel like the implementation on these is just not as good. I won't knock it down as far as the Phillips. I'll give this one a 2. But here you technically got 3 flathead screwdrivers, and you got 3 distinct but nice progressions. You got a small, medium, and large, and all of them are actually pretty well executed here. So we're going to give that one there. Oh, you know what? I did have a flat screw lock. God damn it. I'm blind. Fuck. 2, 3. All right. Wire stripper. This one has it. Let's see, where did it have it? I saw it somewhere. Was it on the... It was on one of the tools. So this one has a wire stripper right here. And it's actually sharpened, unlike a lot of the ones where if you're looking at the can opener or somewhere, I forget where on the most of the sacks, they just have a slot, but it's just like, it's not sharpened. And a lot of people take a diamond round file and cut it at an angle. So that is properly sharpened. You go, that's a decent wire stripper. Here's the thing, it's only for that size wire. When you go over here, I've got small and I've got large if I was doing bigger cable. You've got a much nicer, in fact, you could even sharpen these. These are big enough that you could actually go in with a nice fine diamond file if you needed to and touch them up. That is a much better wire stripper than that one little thing. So this is here. I mean, I would give it, I mean, I'd say it's good for what it is, but honestly, it's just really for that one size. I don't think I missed any other wire strippers on these tools. There's not one on there. Is there anything on the other side? I mean, you have the cutters on the pliers, but as far as a dedicated wire stripper, do you have another one here maybe? No, they didn't put one on there either. So you're pretty much, as far as a dedicated wire stripper, yeah, on either one of them you could use the pliers, but that's just using the cutting edge for something else. As far as a dedicated wire stripper, I mean, I'll give it a 2 because what it has is well done, but it's only one side. On one size, I'm going to give the Spirit a 3. You got 2 very nicely done wire strippers. Now, there's only 2 categories left here, right? There are 3. What did I just do? I put it on the damn cutters. I'm a mess today. Wire stripper was 2. That was a 3. So let's go into the cutters now. We've got, I think this is where maybe the arc pulls out a slight win. The cutters on this are very strong. I mean, there's a lot of metal in there. You're not going to break those very easily. From everything I've read and the couple times I've used it, these things are very strong and you're less likely to break them. These ones have a propensity to break. A lot of reviews talking about how these things chip and crack after just cutting some coat hanger. I haven't sat there trying to break mine. But the flip side is they did probably know that it was weak, and so they made it easy to replace. And you can go and buy and have replacement parts, which I've done preemptively to get cutting inserts and replace that. So I think this is the better, stronger design. And I think as wire cutters, you know, I think they've been very good, and I don't see a lot of people complaining about these at all. So I would say those are good, but I would say these aren't as good, but they are replaceable. So in the end, does it balance out? Probably, because if you did manage to break these, you wouldn't have that aspect of the tool anymore. The only thing you could do is replace the whole tool, but you're also less likely to break it. So whatever it is, I think they're going to be equal again because these are known to break and known to be brittle, but they are replaceable. So it's not as big of a deal. So whether we give them 2s or 3s probably doesn't matter because I think it's a wash one way or the other. Better design, stronger, less likely to break, much more likely to break, but easy to replace. Maybe that would cut in the, maybe you'd have to, you know what, let's give the benefit of the doubt and say, hey, at some point you're likely to break something, so at least they can be repaired here. So let's give it a nod. These are very good, but being able to replace them as many times as you want, I guess would probably put that over the top. Let's be fair. Now, the combo specialty tool. That's going to be a 0. So this does not have that kind of extra tool, right? The Victorinox actually does, and it's on the wire stripper. So they took one tool here, gave you both size wire strippers, and you have a wood chisel or scraper if you need to scrape something off glass, which I've actually used to scrape stickers off glass. And you got that little point there, which makes a perfect box opener, or if you're cutting open a plastic, like the melted plastic security packaging at like from something you bought at Home Depot, and you don't want to have the whole knife go into it and you either cut what you have in the box or you nick up the knife blade if it's something metal. You have that little thing and then a little lip there so that you can just go around very quickly and use it just that corner, which is actually really sharp. I mean, sharp, but you can go ahead and just cut open a box or cut open a package. You got a package opener and a wood chisel or a scraping tool. That's a really cool, and they combined it into the wire strippers. Like that's a really nice, takes up one piece of real estate, but you've got 4 tools on one little piece of metal. That is cool. I'm gonna give it, I mean, is it awesome? Is it the best thing ever? I don't know, I'll just give it a 2. I think it's really good. I like having that little box opener and stuff without having to use the whole blade, like I said. And you cut into the package and you just punctured or sliced whatever it is you bought and now ruined it. Or it's a tool and you just hit and nick the blade because it's metal. Having that little thing that you can just zip right around the edge and open that up and use this as a scraper without having to use your knife blade and stuff like that. Or using it as a wood chisel that you could kind of even hammer and do a little bit of wood chiseling and woodwork. That's a really cool tool. I'm going to give it a 2. I won't be too generous and give it a 3. But all right, so we don't need any of these. Here is our last item here. Value and cost. Now, these are both high-end multi-tools. So as far as quality goes, I think one's going to shake out to be a clear winner here, but there's nothing wrong with either of these. They both use premium materials. They both use really good construction. They're pretty well thought out, both of them. They're both could deserve a place in your pocket. But when you talk about value, this one's $249. This today on Victorinox's website is $145. So this is $105 more. Is that worth it for a bulkier, finickier, maybe more limited, not as well put together tool that does have a really kick-ass blade and replaceable blades on your pliers? I don't know if that's worth $105 to you. Let's go ahead and tally these up. When I think about cost and value, I think this is way overpriced. If this blade was made out of 440C, or if it was made out of, S30V or D2, for a piece of this size, you're only talking about a price difference of like $5 in materials. The price, if a company, a foundry, is making you a quality steel, whether it's D2 or something else, that's a decent tool steel, the cost of them smelting and forging and whatever it is they do to make one versus the other, it doesn't really cost them much more money. Manufacturers charge you a lot more money, but the actual cost of materials isn't that much. Making a bar of steel is making a bar of steel in most ways. Unless it's some crazy, weird, high-end, hard-to-make stuff. This isn't. So it's just what materials did you put in it, and you smelt it and refine it, and that's it. So as far as value goes, I'm giving this a 1. It's horribly expensive for what it is. And while there's nothing wrong with it, and obviously I spent my money on this, I don't honestly think this is worth $250. I just don't. It's nice, but it's not that nice. And it's not that nice to use as this is when it comes to comfort and ergos and some of the other stuff. For $145 to have the Victorinox Swiss-made name, the brand, the heritage, all the stuff that brand stands for, and their typical Swiss precision, quality control, and all that, you got to say for $145, I'm going to give it I want to give it a 3, but I don't want to seem like a Victorinox fanboy here. But it's got to be a 2 or a 3. You can say, well, for value, there are some offerings that are cheaper, but then they're not going to be as well made. You know what? Fuck it. It's getting a 3. This is a really, for value, $145. It comes with a pouch just like that one. It's a great tool. It's great materials. It's Swiss craftsmanship. So let's go down and add these up. We got 3, 6, 8, 11, 14, 17, 20, 22, 25, 28, 30, 32, 34, 37, 40, 42, 45, 48. So we got 48 points for the Victorinox. We got 2, we got 4, we got 7, 9, 12, 14, 17, 20, 22, 23, 20, 25, 27, 30, 32, 34, 0, 35, 37. I would say that's a decisive lead. Maybe it's divisive. I would say that's a decisive lead. Now, these are my opinions based on my use and what I value in a knife. You could disagree on some stuff, but I think I've been as objective as I can be when it comes down to, even if I didn't ding it so much for the value here, even if I didn't ding it for not having the combo tool, what this is this is a $105 less, which is like 50% or 70%, whatever it is, percent less. I'm done doing math. It's a much more nicer to use, looks nicer, fits in your pocket better, slides in and out, way more comfortable. It's just a nicer feeling tool. And most of these tools are just a little bit better executed. What this is a pretty good tool that is a little bulkier, but it does have a wicked good blade. It's got Magna Cut, it's one-handed opening. As a knife, this is vastly superior to this. As a well-rounded pocket tool butt, so this is more like, to me, I look at this and I go, this is like a nice knife that also has really good pliers and a bunch of pretty damn good tools, right? That's what this is. It's a knife. It's almost like knife takes over the priority over the pliers, even though obviously a multi-tool is built around the pliers. This just has a fantastic blade. If it didn't have that, I don't see where there would be much of a compelling reason to buy this. This is an all-around better, well-made, more comfortable, more nice-to-use tool that also has a pretty decent knife on it. That's my opinion. There's our score. God damn, that went long, 40 minutes. But there you have it. I declare this the victor, and when I'm king of America, it shall be so. So anyway, hope you enjoyed. If you stuck with it this long, I don't know. I tried to be as objective and detailed, going through every little thing I could. I didn't want this to just be, I like this one because it's this, this, and this. And if you want that kind of video, I'm sure TikTok's full of stuff for short attention span folks. For those of you that stuck with me this long, thank you. Appreciate it. And we'll see you next time. We'll try to shorten it up next time.